It's time for Media Watch with Rebecca Bowring. How are you?
Very well, Mark. How are you?
Now, you've shattered an illusion or seven for me tonight, because I love wildlife documentary programmes, and you have news about one that maybe isn't all it's kind of purporting to be, shall we say.
Exactly, yeah, a bit of a shame this one. It's got the BBC into hot water, that's for sure. Let's take a look here at the website of Frozen Planet, a very well-known and very well-regarded documentary series about polar regions of the Earth in the UK. 8 million viewers per week, but as we find out from the Daily Mail here in this article, there was a key sequence in one of the episodes that featured the birth of some baby polar bears, and viewers thought that it took place under the Arctic, somewhere in under the ice there, but actually it was in a specially constructed den in a zoo in Germany, so not all it was purporting to be. Now, the BBC says that the commentary was very carefully worded, and they said just that the babies were born below the ice, so you didn't know where, and the snow actually was even fake snow. And there's a video clip actually on the BBC's website which you can dig out, where you find out the circumstances of this particular shoot, but unfortunately it's quite difficult to uncover. Now, it was the Daily Mirror that first came out with this story, broke the story, and David Attenborough, who I'm sure you know, Mark,
Sir 85,
yes, Sir David Attenborough, 85 years old. He is kind of the godfather of naturalism in the UK.
He's a legend of British television.
Yes, he certainly is, and he's, I don't know how many documentaries he's lent his voice to, but he's very well known. He's had to defend the actions of the documentary makers, and says if you try to put a camera in the wild in a polar bear den, she would either have killed the cub or the cameraman. So clearly it was very dangerous to do. But he compares making a nature documentary with making a movie, and some people say, well, they're not at all the same genre, so that's not a valid excuse. And he also points out that if in the commentary they'd said this was actually filmed in a zoo, it would really have spoiled the viewers' enjoyment. But at the end of this particular article, the columnist says, well, actually, these images are amazing in whatever context you see them, so it's not really that's not a fair defence, and points out that maybe Attenborough is yet another journalist that we can't trust, so some quite strong words. But in the New Statesman, Stephen Baxter here says, oh, come off it. You know, we've been making faking documentaries and natural history programmes forever. This is not new news. Maybe the film crew, he says, didn't want to be decapitated by an angry bear paw. Maybe they didn't want to disrupt an increasingly endangered species, or maybe they tried and it just didn't work. There's Sir David there. Does it really matter very much, he says. Now, this reminds us perhaps, do you remember Crown Gate back in 2007, Mark?
Tell us more.
Well, this was when a kind of spoof sequence, or it was a sequence that was filmed and then actually broadcast in reverse. It was a trailer for a documentary about the Queen, and it purported to show her flouncing out of a photo shoot with Annie Leibovitz in a huff, saying, I can't take any more of this. Whereas in effect, actually, those images were shot as she was walking into the room, so they were played backwards, and the head of BBC One actually had to resign over that. So you've got to be very careful with how much doctoring you do.
Indeed. Well, what's next, though? Because I'm short of time. Tell us what's next. Go ahead.
The Higgs boson, which you've been talking about in your bulletin, the holy grail of physics, as this article from an Australian news site points out, and it definitely maybe exists. We've seen signs of it, but we don't know for sure what it's all about. Now, this is one of the many light-hearted pieces that have sprung up on the internet, trying to sort of unravel the complexity of this semi-discovery for us. It's quite a tongue-in-cheek article, basically a dummy's guide. And so we understand that the particle is this missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle, as you said, Mark.
The so-called God particle.
That's right. And why is it called the God particle? Well, if we go to the Telegraph, is it because it has anything to do with proving the existence of God? No, says this article, not at all. It comes from Leon Lederman. He's a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, and he used the God particle as the title for his book. He wanted to call it, pardon my French, the goddamn particle, because nobody could find it. Yeah, he was really annoyed about it, but his publisher said, well, you're going to sell many copies, so the best thing is to call it the God particle.
OK, Rebecca, I think we need to leave it there. I'm sorry. Oh, no, we don't. We've got time for Lego. Tell us about Lego, please.
Excellent. So we're taking a look back at the big news events of 2011 through the medium of Lego. You know, it's near the end of the year. So this is a series of photos compiled on Flickr by The Guardian. It starts out with this Lego Christmas tree erected at St Pancras Station in London. It uses that as a launch pad then to go back through time, and it's got the big headline-grabbing events of the year, really. Here you have the custard pie incident with Rupert Murdoch and his son James in front of the phone hacking hearing, of course. We remember that one. You've got the royal wedding. That's another biggie. Occupy Wall Street there with all the little Lego men saying, I am too big to fail. And there are some of the sort of heroes and villains. This is one of the villains of 2011, Charlie Sheen. And further down, you've got, of course, Steve Jobs. So a nice little collection there reminding us of all the great events events of 2011.
Maybe they'll do France 24 one day, who knows, eh?
We should have done one for our 5th birthday.
Rebecca Barry, thank you very much indeed. Rebecca Barry with Media Watch. Stay with us. We've got a full roundup of the day's news and sport, including the latest honour bestowed upon the footballer Karim Benzema. Can you guess what it is? Yes, he's the top French footballer of 2011. All that after the break. Stay with us.